Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Saturday, March 1st, and I'm going to jump right into it. So we're going to start with the kickoff of the It's Pittsfield Tonight 2025 business tour, which this weekend concludes the first weekend or special for our first business, which is Pittsfield Rye Bakery, located at 1010 South Street, directly behind Guido's. Today is the last day, again, of the special, which is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that's buy any 2 loaves of bread and get a 3rd loaf for free. It's a great deal, and a huge thank you to the Robbins family for doing this. And the whole purpose of this business tour is to promote our local businesses. So also to the local business owners, if you hadn't seen it in the previous videos I did, if you go up there to participate or take advantage of the special, leave a business card with them. And I will gather those business cards. I've already received a few. And if you're interested in being featured in the business tour, I will get in touch with you and do a promo for your business. So that's all you have to do. Stop in, leave a business card with the Robbins family up there. And again, that's today is the final day at their location, which is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., 1010 South Street, located up the hill directly behind Guido's. Once you pull into Guido's, you'll see all the signs. You can't miss it. The driving videos, I got to mention that. So I've been putting those driving videos out for almost a decade now. And the main reason I did those driving videos, well, after the first couple ones I did, I was contacted by an individual who works at one of our local care facilities, a local nursing home. And she said, we play those videos that you do from your YouTube channel. And there's quite a few of our residents that love them. They get to see the city, they get to see neighborhoods they used to live in or places they used to shop. And she said, it's great. It brings a lot of happiness to them. And I thought, how awesome is that? And of course, I would also get messages from people saying, I used to live there. Thank you so much for doing these. I love being able to see back home, see where I grew up. And it helps me stay in touch with back home in Pittsfield. And there's been a few people that actually moved here. Not necessarily just because of those videos. They were considering moving here, and it gave them a lot of insight into the city. So that being said, somehow, for many of you, those videos have turned into about road conditions and potholes. Now, that's not what it was intended for, but it is what it is. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I received a message from an individual saying, why are you being so negative? Stop putting those videos out. It's hurting the community. And I thought, wait a minute, never once did I ever say anything about potholes, road conditions, or anything like that. So I thought that was the strangest thing to get a message saying that just by showing our city is being negative. I think that individual needs to reread the message they sent me and tell me that's not confusing. Because if just showing the community we live in is being negative, we've got bigger problems than you can imagine. That one really threw me for a loop. So if people mention potholes and they mention road conditions, that's what they mention. Now, I get that potholes this time of year throughout the country is something that is discussed. It has been discussed for 50, 60, 70 years, That being said, I have to say, when I went down to the Morningside neighborhood, and I lived down there. When I was a kid, I lived on near Maple and Cherry. I was shocked at the conditions of the roads because we're not talking potholes. Many of those roads are disintegrated. They're just unbelievably horrible. And it's not a pothole when they're massive sections of the road that's almost impassable. And some of them were kind of sketchy to me. I thought, man, I really can't afford to do damage to my front end right now. I was worried about that. I was worried about blowing a tire or breaking a rim or doing damage to the front end of my car. And that's for real. And it'd been a few years since I really drove down through those neighborhoods like that and was shocked. I really was shocked and saddened. So I will admit to a lot of you, there's some streets and roads that this didn't just happen from one season of potholes. Some of these took a considerable amount of time to get into that condition, and they've been neglected, it seems like, for a long time to get into that condition. And that's just my opinion. And for those that think I'm being negative, I'm not. That's just reality. Many people send me, hey, can you go to this location? Can you go to that location? And I'm trying to hit all of them. I think it's great that people enjoy watching those for whatever reason. And if it does draw attention in a good way to the road conditions and maybe helps address it, fine. So be it. But that's not what those videos are about. They're just driving around the city. I've been doing them for, like I said, almost a decade. And I hear it all from people. Believe me, I hear you're driving too fast. You're driving too slow. Your camera's making it not look as bad as they are. Your camera's making it look worse than they are. You're running red lights. You're running stop signs. You didn't come to a complete stop. You stopped too long. What are you doing? You're blocking up traffic. I have heard everything. But doing this, I've heard a lot anyway. You can learn a lot about yourself and other people by truly putting yourself out there in the public. And, it's rare that people will point out something good, but make one of the tiniest little mistakes, and there's people that will jump all over that as fast as they can. It's just how it is. And I've learned to just deal with that. So it is what it is. But again, those were never intended, and they're not intended to be negative. And there's more coming. There's people that have said, hey, can you drive through here? Can you drive through there? Some of them I did yesterday. So like Valentine Road, I got a lot of messages on that one. South Street, I got a lot of messages on that one. So those two I already filmed, and I'll be putting those out probably later today. And then East Street, I'll cruise through there. And believe me, I travel those too. So, but I have to say, last year I saw a lot of road work going on. So I believe that under this new administration, they're trying to catch up on it. So that's that on the driving videos. Garbage, that's something I haven't talked about in a couple weeks here, and it's still at the forefront, believe me. So since we switched to the new automated trash collection, the totes, we've had some issues, without a doubt. And I'm one of those people that believe the 48-gallon tote is too small. It's too small for the majority of the community, or at least half of the community. And having to pay an extra $160 a year for a second garbage tote, it's a lot for people that are already financially stressed. Then there's the other side of it. There's a whole segment of the population that says, works for me, I actually have extra room. I've heard that a lot. Some people even said it's too big. It's too big for what I need. So I get that it's a tricky thing to please everybody. That's never going to happen, ever. With any politician, with any community person, with anybody who puts themselves out there. But definitely in politics. So I do believe, though, that the 48-gallon was too small. Now, if you watch the interviews I did with Mayor Marchetti a few weeks back, and I asked him, because he had said multiple times that it could only be one size tote, that the truck could only be calibrated to pick up one size tote. And he admitted that there was a misunderstanding on his part, and that it could have been the 48, 64, 96. There could have been a choice for people. Now, I understand that the main purpose behind this is to reduce the amount of garbage and increase the amount of recycling. And I get that. I still think it would have been more beneficial to give people the option, even if they had to pay a little bit more to compensate for that. I don't think it would have been nowhere near as expensive as having two trash totes. And for people that wanted the 96, you're going to get more garbage in one 96-gallon tote than you are two 48-gallon totes. And that's simply because if you look at the bottom, the base of those 48s, there's not much room there. It's very tricky. And if you pack that trash in there, it's going to stay in there. So there's that issue. But, it is what it is. And we have the 48-gallon totes. I think one of the big issues is, and I've seen a lot of the drivers out there, and this is where I'm confused. You're seeing a lot of the traditional, or I've seen the traditional backloading old style garbage trucks out with the automated trucks, and it's confusing because I feel like that they still have so many kinks to work out with this. The trash routes are taking longer than they used to. You're seeing one driver, it's just one person for the whole truck, and that person's having to get out. Often these totes blow over. The 48 gallons they chose are very cheap, very flimsy ones. I've looked at the reviews for that model, and they're horrible. And I get that there was a cost savings in buying one size, buying 50,000 48-gallon totes, because the only thing that differentiates the garbage ones from the recycling ones is the color of the lid. So I get it. There was a cost savings for them in buying that one size 48-gallon tote, but they're very cheap. They blow over easy. The drivers are constantly getting out, picking them up. I still see probably half of the people out there piling garbage in on top of that 48-gallon, which, the lid is supposed to be shut. But I also have people telling me with even a mild breeze that lid just flies open anyway, which allows crows and squirrels to get in there and start ripping garbage out. And then people are going to be dealing with bears soon. But the crows do a number, and they're everywhere in the city. And they'll rip apart a garbage bag quickly. They're a very smart bird, and they know where their food source is. And that I do think is an issue, though, that these totes are cheap and flimsy. So we're seeing that. And I think Casella wasn't prepared. This got rushed through. And it should have been piloted in a ward. You should have picked one ward and implemented the tote system, worked out the kinks, expand to the next ward, and so on. Because Casella is still leasing trucks. Now, they might have some of their own in by now. I'm not sure of that. I know they said they were hoping by April at the latest that they would have theirs in that they purchased. But I think it was rushed through, and it was never tested and piloted. And now they're trying to work out all these kinks on the fly, and it seems to be an issue. And like I said, the drivers are taking so much longer than the way they used to do it to cover these routes, that if you look at just the environmental impact of that, I mean, if you want to look at it from that perspective, the trucks are running longer. That's more fuel being consumed. And that's not, as far as emissions, that's not good for the environment. If you want to look at it that way, if that's one of the reasons we're trying to address this. And then overall, my feelings on it, to sum it up, are rather than putting the burden on the consumer, legislators should be putting pressure on the manufacturers who pump all these cheap plastics out into the communities. And it's up to now to the consumer to deal with the expense of getting rid of it, and it's poisoning our planet. The pressure should be on the manufacturers, period, if you really want to start solving that problem. That's what I think. And you don't really hear much about that. So anyway, that's it on trash. I am going to do a follow-up with Mayor Marchetti. I'm going to wait a little while. I've been in contact with him through Messenger, and he knows there's some issues, but he says, look, we're going to get this. We're going to work it out, and it's going to work. And I believe he will get there. So, and I'll wait to do a follow-up with him probably, in the spring. Just let this go a little bit longer and see where we're going with it. One last topic I want to touch on briefly is the situation with Pittsfield High School. So, as I mentioned in the last video, we need to wait till this investigation is completed. And in the past few days, a lot of information has come out, including the law firm that was hired to do this independent investigation, which I believe her name, former judge, I believe, Judge Rupp, Mary Jo Rupp. I think that's correct. And anyway, the information that was put out is that we know we had a dean of students arrested for allegedly selling cocaine. We had a dean of students that was put on paid leave for alleged allegations of inappropriate conduct with students, something like that, against that individual, and allegations for alleged inappropriate behavior from a vice principal. And so far, on those three, the dean of students and the vice principal that were accused of alleged inappropriate behavior, there's the investigation that so far says that those are unsubstantiated claims, and that's that. And one of them will be returning very soon back to school, and I imagine the other one. So I got a lot of messages on this one of people shocked and confused. And I'll tell you what really sticks out to me is we had an individual come speak. I forget where she was from, I think the Boston area. And she spoke to a joint meeting of the Pittsfield City Council and the Pittsfield School Committee. And she talked about allegations of sexual abuse, inappropriate conduct, all those topics that basically we're talking about with our school that have taken place in other school districts that she's dealt with. And one of the things she said that really, really stuck out to me was very rarely, if ever, will students lie about this, because it takes so much for them to come forward to start with, which is something they're reluctant to do. They feel shame. They feel all sorts of feelings of peer pressure, and they don't want to come forward. And she said, when students do, you have to take their word for it and then do your investigation. But I want to know, are these allegations, were these brought forward by students? Where did this come from? I think we need to know a lot more as a community. Like, if they're saying all these claims are unsubstantiated, okay, well, where does this go, and what were the claims, and who were they from? Without, I'm not saying put people's names out there, but were these students? It's very confusing to what happened. And that's really all I want to talk about on that. But I feel like there's definitely more to know. And it was a head scratcher for me, too, that they just said everything's unsubstantiated and that's that. Which is shocking that all these claims that came forward. It was that we heard the same thing about some former school employees that work at another place, that those claims were unsubstantiated. Was this one individual that brought these claims forward? Who brought these claims forward? And again, I'm not saying put their names out there, but was this multiple people? There's so much more to know, because to hear allegations of that type are so serious that I think the community definitely needs to know more on that. So hopefully we find out more on that. I've heard your messages and I've read them all, and I'm as concerned and as confused as many of you. So that's all I'm going to touch on that, but I will do some follow-up on all this. And And remember, today for the business tour, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Pittsfield Rye Bakery, which is the first business I kicked off with. And again, they're open today from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. retail hours. Buy any 2 loaves of bread, get 1 for free. It's a great deal, and supporting our local businesses is huge. It's one of the best things you can do to help support Pittsfield and Central Berkshires. You don't have to be just a Pittsfield business. As many of you know, I've worked with Dalton businesses and Lee and Lanesboro and other businesses. So if you want to be involved in this and you're a business owner, stop up to Pittsfield Rye today, 1010 South Street, right behind Guido's. take advantage of the great deal they're offering and leave your business card with them, and I will reach out to you and schedule a time to do a promo for your business. So that is it for now. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.